Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of this series on AutoCAD. In this session, I shall be looking at AutoCAD drawing tools. I will be explaining in details the different drawing tools in AutoCAD and how to use them. Let's get started. Okay, all right, as I said in the previous video, drawing tools and modifying tool is very important to your understanding AutoCAD. So getting familiar with your drawing tools and your modifying tool is very, very important. So now on the drawing tool, we'll be looking at different types of line, what they do and how to use them. So there are different types of line in AutoCAD. We have line, which is like a normal line, the polyline. Then when you click on this arrow on the draw panel, it's going to expose some tools. So now here you can see some other types of line. We have the spline or SP line or spline, whichever way you want to call it. Then we have the construction line. So basically, I would say like four types of line, which is the normal line, polyline, the spline, and the construction line. So we are going to learn these four type of line, how to use them. So this will enable you to understand when to use them. All right. So the first one is the line. Okay. So now I click on the line. When you click on the line, then you can pick, looking at the command line says specify first point. Now, specify first point is giving you information on what to do. So now I'm going to click my first point, anywhere, any desired point. Looking back at the command line, you can see that you have another information that says specify next point. Okay, all right. So I click on my next point. I can keep on clicking on my next points. So, okay, depending on what you want to draw, just keep on picking your points. Now, looking at the command line, you will see that we have three instructions. Now, I have explained the command line in the previous video. So now, on the command line, you can see there are three things that you can do. You can either specify next point, or you close, or you can decide to undo. So depending on what you want to do, so you can decide to go for any option of your choice. So now at this point, I still want to keep on specifying my next point, which is my default option. So I'll keep clicking on points to pick points. So you can pick any of the desired points. So if I want to close, if I decide at this junction that I want to close this line, I can go ahead and click on the close option. So once I click on the close option, you can see that clicking on the close option, I've joined the last point to the first point, thereby closing the tools, thereby terminating the tool. So that is line for you. So I go back again, I pick more line, I pick point. So at any point I can decide to close, I click on close. If I want to choose the other option, which is undo, I can click on undo. So now when I click on undo, you can observe what is happening. Like the lines are stepping back. I can decide to go a different direction. So I want to undo, I click on undo, and the points step back. So now using your line, you will observe that there are just three options. There are three options to what you can do using line. You can decide to pick on your next point. You can decide to close. You can decide to undo. All right. So whichever one that you would like to do. All right. So now I want to close. Click on close. All right. That's it. All right. So that's it on your line. So now we're going to look at the next tool, which is polyline. Polyline. All right. So now I pick polyline. Now, what's the difference between line and polyline? What's the difference between line and polyline? Polyline has one important feature, which is you can use polyline to draw both your normal line and an arc. So polyline is a combination of line and arc. So you have a tool, a single tool that can combine the function of line and also the function of arc. Now, mind you, arc is a separate tool, but line is a separate tool. Arc is a separate tool in AutoCAD. But with your polyline, it combines the work of line and it combines the work of. Okay, so this is one of the difference between line and polyline. So now I click on polyline. Looking at the command line, it's telling me specify start points. I click the start point. Then you can see by default, I still have specify next points. So I keep picking my next points. Now, what he's doing now is that he's doing the work of line, right? He's doing the work of line. So now if I want to draw an arc, I can click on the arc option here. So clicking on arc option, you can see that my tool has changed from using line to now using arc. So peradventure, I want to go back to line. Check your command line. You can see line again. So no, switch back to line. Now you want to do an arc, go to your command line, switch back to arc. You want to do line again, go back to line. So now you want to close, you can click on close. So similarly as it is in line, your close connects the last point to the first point. Now you can see here now that your polyline can do the work of line and also to do the work of arc. So you have one tool, polyline, doing the work of two other tools, arc and line. So your polyline is a combination of line and arc. Now that's it. Now, there is another difference between using a line and using an arc. There are actually two differences between using your line. Sorry. There are two differences between using a line and using a polyline. Now, we have talked about one, which is your polyline can do the work of line and arc, and whereas line is strictly line. Now, another difference between using line and using polyline is this. Let me explain. Now, I'm going to draw the same object with both line and polyline. Close. All right, now I'm going to draw the same object with polyline. The same object, which is an arrow. I'm going to draw it with polyline. Close. All right, so I've drawn the same thing using line here, using polyline here. But there is still another difference between line and polyline. And now this is it. Now, when I click on line, when I click on an object, now when I click on the same object here, you will observe that clicking on it with polyline, it selects the whole object. But when I click on object here, in line, we have individual objects. What I draw here in line, they are individual. They are not connected. They are separate. But in polyline, they are connected. So I'm going to press escape on my keyboard now to terminate that selection. So now again, this is done with line. So when I try to select with line, I observe that it's just they are not connected. The lines are not connected. The lines are not connected. But whereas if I go to polyline and I try to select, I will see that the lines are connected. So in polylines, you have all your lines or probably line and arc, you have everything connected. They are one. They are single objects. Whereas in line, escape again, whereas in line, they are individual objects. Individual objects. Okay, now by the way, let me explain what I call objects in AutoCAD. Now in AutoCAD, an object is whatsoever you draw is generally called an object. Whether you draw a line, you draw a circle, you draw an arc, you draw a rectangle, general name is object, general name. So you are going to be hearing me talking about object, 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 object. So when I'm talking about object, I'm talking about whatsoever you draw, whether it's a line or a circle or an arc or a rectangle or an ellipse, the general term is objects. Okay, all right. So now with line, you have individual objects. With polyline, all of this is just a single object. They are all connected. It's a single unit. So this is another difference between line and polyline. And this difference is more of importance when you are dealing with 3D, when you are working with 3D. All right. So now that is line and polyline. All right. We have another type of line anyway. We have another type of line called the construction line. Construction line. So you can get your construction line by clicking on the arrow under this draw. You see the construction line. The construction line. Okay. All right. You see the construction line. When you click on the arrow under draw, you see the construction line. So now I select the construction line. Then you check your command line for instruction. Now on the command line, I can see that there are several ways you can use your construction line. By default, it says specify a point. Then on the alternative options, we have horizontal, vertical, angular, bisect, and offset. So first of all, I'm going to click on specify a point. So I'll pick a point. Now, one important feature about your construction line is that the construction line does not have beginning, does not have an end point. So using your construction line, there is no beginning, there is no starting point, there is no ending point. So now I just click on a point and it gave me a very extensive line that does not have a beginning and does not have an end. The line spans through the entire drawing area. So now by command line says specify a true point. So by me clicking another point, this point is now this line is now well defined. So I'm going to press escape on my keyboard to terminate it. All right. Now here you can see we have a line called the construction line, and the line spans through the drawing sheet. It spans through the drawing area. It does not have a starting point or it does not have an ending point. So we just have a line that's so long. The line is so long. So construction line, that's our construction line. So I'm going to be doing this again. Draw. I pick on the construction line and I follow my default option, which says specify a point on my command line. I click on a point. Then my command line says specify a true point. So I'm going to click on another point. I click on another point, and I press escape. So by doing this, it has given me an endless line that is passing through 2 points that I picked. So this is called a construction line. All right, I'll be deleting this. Select and delete. All right. Another way to use the construction line is you can use the construction line to draw horizontal and vertical lines. Horizontal, so I go to command line, I click on horizontal. So now you can see, because I click on horizontal, it's giving me a line without starting point and ending point, but it's horizontal. So I can decide to drop it at any point of my choice. So I have an horizontal line at different points. All right, that's it. So horizontal. So if I want to go, I'm going to press escape to terminate. All right. So if I want to draw I want to draw a vertical construction line. So it's similar. Construction line. Then I click on vertical here. So it gives me a line without beginning, without end, but vertical. So, all right. So here I have vertical construction line. All right. Okay. I'm going to select everything in my screen by pressing Ctrl A. So I press Ctrl A to select everything on my screen. Then I click on delete. So I'm going to delete everything. All right. So now you can see that construction line, you can actually draw it at an unspecified angle or vertically or horizontally. Now, what if you want to draw your construction line at a particular angle, at a specified angle? How do you do this? All right. I go back to my construction line. Now on the command line, you're going to see that you have an option called angle. Angle. So when I click on angle, then you can specify the angle of the construction line that you want. Let's assume I want at 45. 45, enter. I press enter. Now you can see I have a construction line that is strictly at 45 degree. So you can actually choose any angle that you want. All right, so that's it. I'm going to press escape on my keyboard, Control A to select all and delete. All right, so now I hope you have learned 4 different ways of drawing construction line. You can either draw construction line at an unspecified angle, you can draw vertical, you can draw horizontal, you can also draw at a specified angle of your choice. All right, thank you so much. I'll be ending this video at this point. Thank you so much. So follow up on the next part of the video so we keep on learning our modifying tool. Thank you.